All right, everybody, welcome back into the den here at Fox 5 Studios. I'm Mike Davis. We got a brand new episode of Dry Heat for you. And listen, this guy's going to bring the heat, okay? He is a legend here in Las Vegas, but he's a guy, very interesting guy, an Aussie, an Australian guy. Beautiful accent. He's got a great suit on. You're going to meet him in a second, but he started Action Coach a long time ago in 1993. I was born in 92. This guy's been doing it for a long time. It's Mr. Brad Sugars with us. Brad, bless us with this great accent.
Oh, g'day. Good to be here. And I don't know about a legend in Vegas, but I think we did some legendary fun things over the years.
You really have. I've been in Vegas for about 6.5 years now, and it's just about every few months somebody will say to me 2 words: Brad Sugars. Brad Sugars. And I'm like, you know what? How has Jason Feinberg not introduced me to this guy yet? But I'm so happy to finally have you in here. We got a lot to get to because you got you're a maven when it comes to entrepreneurial dealings. You started Action Coach in 93. So we're going to get into a bunch of things. But first, let's start with Vegas because you're Australian.
Yeah.
When did you finally move to Vegas? Because you've seen this place grow tremendously.
Yeah, 2005 I moved here. So technically, 21 years now. So I must be almost local at this point in time. But yeah, I remember literally going west from the Strip. Rainbow was the last paved road when I got here. So it was dirt from there on out.
And why? Why did you move to Vegas?
Well, jokingly, it's like, what's the only city in America fun enough for an Australian to live in? But when I first moved to the States, I moved to Northern California, the Bay Area, in the internet boom.
Okay.
And that was sort of the reason for moving there. And then lifestyle-wise, I said, you know what? I think that I want a better lifestyle than Northern California traffic, and Vegas became the spot.
You wanted to party it up.
Well, partying it up is a little bit of it, but mostly it's just, like, I love this city. You know, from where we are in Summerlin, I'm an hour to the ski fields in the winter. I'm an hour to the lake in the summer.
Yeah.
I'm 15 minutes and I'm hiking Red Rock, and I'm also 10 miles as the crow flies from the entire Strip. Where else could you be this spoiled in life?
It's interesting. So you really took to Vegas very quickly, it seems like. But growing up, to paint a picture for our audience, Brad Sugars was a guy who would get Christmas presents and then start trying to sell them to his siblings to make money. He was the type of guy who saved up money to go to a training course, a seminar by the legendary Jim Rohn. So you were a guy who always had a taste, a yearning for entrepreneurial stuff. You had the bug at a young age. Why? Was it just the way you were raised? Do you have something innately different in you? What was it?
I blame my mom for making me rich. When we were, gosh dang, I would have been maybe 13. We moved from Darwin to Adelaide in Australia.
Okay.
And in Darwin, you wear a pair of shorts and a T-shirt to school, and if you want to, you can wear shoes. You know, it's different. We moved to Adelaide, and it's long pants, button-down shirts, blazers, and at the time, here I'm going to age myself. At the time, what was cool was Levi's 501 jeans.
Gotcha.
We were not cool. We got corduroy pants from Kmart. And so I don't know if you've ever worn corduroy pants, but when you walk and they rub together, it makes a fun sound. 13-year-old, tall, lanky kid with pants that make a fart sound when you're walking down the hallway. I ended up not getting along with kids for a little bit, and so I got in a fight with a kid, went home, cut those pants up, because I blamed the pants for my life not being the way it was. And I made a decision as a 13-year-old boy that I would never not have money to buy the things I wanted.
Interesting. So it was strife. It was a moment at 13 that caused you distress. And it's funny because Jim Rohn, he really talks a lot about, outside noise, and it's who you are becoming and how people are constantly blaming other things rather than taking responsibility for themselves. So obviously at 13, it's justified to be a little, distressed when you're getting made fun of in a new circumstance and situation, but immediately you reframed that moment.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges with what I did there was I set a negative goal, and that's what most human beings do. Don't want to be overweight, don't want to be broke, don't want to be working too many hours. The don't wants is like going to Google saying, don't show me a photo of a pink elephant, right? It's going to show you all pink elephants. So the challenge was to learn, and Jim Rohn helped me reframe this at age 16, because at 16 I won the Rotary Youth Leadership Award in my area, and thank goodness for the Rotary Club. They sent me away for a week-long training on success and leadership, and that just changed my whole perspective.
Really? And what did you do to deserve this Rotary?
I was in the debate team at school.
Oh, okay.
And so they asked us to enter the awards, and you had to get up and speak. And, of course, being on the debate team, that was easy for me. So I won the award from that, and that led me to go and see Mr. Rohn, Brisbane City Town Hall, 16 years old. I think I was the youngest person in the room. I probably took the most notes because the amount of money I'd paid to go see him, it was like, I am taking every single
right. And just for everybody at home, so Jim Rohn, he was a guy really in the 70s who really started the whole personal development kind of trend. So now we're so accustomed to the Ryan Holidays and the Tim Ferrisses and the Tony Robbins. There's so many people in this personal development space, but he was a guy who worked for Sears, and he kind of worked up the ladder, and basically later in his life started putting on these seminars that really tailored towards personal development with a business kind of side. And it's fascinating. And a lot of his teachings were really about looking inward. It's not about how much money you're making or all these things. It's about success is about what you're becoming and how you're growing,
So Mr. Rohn taught me to reframe into positive goals, not get away from a negative,
right,
but aim towards a positive. Like, people say, I don't want to be overweight. What if you set a goal of, I want to be able to run 3 miles 5 days a week? If, I don't want to be in a bad relationship. Well, what type of relationship do you want to be in? I don't want to be broke. Okay, well, let's talk about what you actually want. And this is where most people don't move to that positive.
Yeah, and I think because of that, it's because most people are naturally inclined to think about, it's like when you're searching for a spouse, right? You almost know first what you don't want before you know what you do want.
So make a list then. Left side of the page, here's what I don't want.
Right.
Right side of the page, flip it over. I don't want that, so what I do want is this. Don't want that, what I do want is this. And you start to move into, the law of attraction, all of these things about you bring into your life what you do set your mind to. Ultimately, the highest level of goal, though, is legacy. Doing more for others than yourself. And if you do more for others than you do yourself, you get rewarded ultimately. So that's where, for me, teaching is that ultimate way of giving back.
Yeah, and you've become the ultimate teacher, and we're going to get into that. But I want to continue on this track for a little bit because I want to paint a picture of your life growing up. So I understand as an Australian, transitioning from, going to Adelaide, from Darwin, all that stuff. What was your life like? Did you grow up wealthy with means? What did your dad do, for instance?
We were a good middle-class family. Dad ran a piping company, so they manufactured concrete pipes.
Wow.
And he worked his way up in the ranks and became state manager, national manager, all that sort of stuff. He retired early. He got a golden handshake when the company got sold, and from there built his own business. And
But did you have an idea of what you wanted? Like at 13, were you like,
No,
I want to
what
be a
happened
tennis player, I want to be a surfer? Like, did you have
I
any?
actually thought I wanted to be a lawyer because
Really?
I was good at speaking and debate, and I thought, maybe I'll be a lawyer. And thank goodness I didn't get the university score to get in. In Australia, it's a public university system, so you have to get a certain score to get into a certain class. And
Right.
I got enough to get into accounting class, but I didn't get enough to get in and accepted as a lawyer, and thank goodness for that. So
Because you really would have went on that trajectory. You
probably. And then I finished accounting class, and no accounting firm wanted to employ me. I was a very good at university. In high school, I wanted to get all A's because I think that's what I wanted. And then at university, I was like, C's are good. I get the same piece of paper as the next guy as long as I get through this thing.
Interesting.
But I worked a lot of jobs through university.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
you were at Queensland University of Technology, and while you were there, you actually started a small business. So it made sense why you were getting C's. What's this business you started while you're at Queensland University?
So, there was a bunch of different things I did. So DJing was one thing, birthdays, weddings, all of that sort of stuff. And then there was another, pizza with my best friend Joe. We started manufacturing and wholesaling pizzas because Joe was obviously Italian, so pizza was in his blood, and a lot of different things. And I think the biggest lesson I got from that is your first businesses, you're probably not going to make your fortune from it, but you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
You'll have to learn sales and learn marketing, because the hardest part of success is not the doing. It's the learning and the growing. Well, when you look at someone that's achieved a level of success from their work, you can work 60, 80 hours a week, but if you don't learn to do it a better way and learn to do it a better way and learn to keep growing. 16, Jim Rohn, here's an interesting, fun story. I set the goal of retiring at age 25 when I met Mr. Rohn. And yeah, most people did exactly that. They laughed at me because they said, you can't possibly do that. But here's the thing about a goal that I think is so important, Micah. That is that if you know how to do it, it's not a goal. If you don't have to learn, grow, and become better, it's not a real goal.
Interesting.
If you know how to do it, it's a to-do list item. It's not a goal.
Yeah, that's it. I never heard that. I like that.
So I had to at 16, and this is where people didn't believe that I could do it. And technically, they were correct. 16-year-old version of Brad could not achieve that.
Yeah.
But the version of Brad that I was becoming could do that.
Yeah. A lot of things in life, it's you know, that growth, it's charting the unknown, you know, and it's taking chances and being bold. And I think it's very fascinating. I was talking to a buddy from college the other day, and when he was in college, he wanted to be a film director. That's what his dream was. And the other day I'm talking to him, he's now in sales, and I said, do you ever miss, you know, not becoming that film director? Do you still have aspirations to do that? And he told me very bluntly in a confident tone, I know what it takes to become that, and I don't have the interest to do it. Yeah. I know what it would take, and I could do it, but I don't want to take the steps to do it.
And that's like, you know, running a marathon. You know, life is that, and you've got to learn and grow to be the level of things. And that brings me back to an interesting philosophy of don't complain about the results you didn't get for the work you didn't do.
Right.
You know, and the hardest work is yourself. Someone once asked me, what's your greatest success? And I said very clearly, my greatest success is me. If you saw the 13-year-old snot-nosed version of a kid that I was, and you saw how much work I did on me, Jim Rohn says it best. He says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Yeah.
See, life's never going to get easier. You've got to get better at life. Business won't get easier. Money's not going to get easier. You just got to get better at it. And if you keep getting better, life keeps getting easier.
So where do you think the catalyst, obviously, it's not just the corduroy pants that were chafing, you know,
the
in your, you know, but like what really propelled you to dig deep? Because I think what happens is when you start going to Queensland and University of Technology, and you're getting into the system of how society conditions, you know, and I think that's what you're doing through Action Coach and what you started and how it's in over 80 countries and you have over 1,000 different franchises and locations. You're teaching kind of people to break free of kind of the constraints that are unknowingly sometimes put upon humanity, because we're kind of conditioned to just go through the cycle of life. For me, Brad, I'll give you a story about me, for instance. In 4th grade, I knew I wanted to be a talk show host. Yeah. I had no clue how I was going to make that a reality. My dad wasn't a talk show host. I had no clue how I was going to make this a reality. The truth was, though, I just, like you said, I was committed to the unknown and to the growing, and just whatever way it was going to take me, this path, I just knew it was going to happen. And I was okay with failing. I was okay with coming up short. I was okay with the whole process because I was committed to the process and the journey. And I think that's such a special thing. And more so than any success I could achieve, I'm just proud that I took the road. I took the journey. But I think a lot of times in society, like if I didn't have great parents, if I didn't listen to my heart, there's so many times in life where we're kind of pushed, like, well, do something safer or do something a little bit, like that. How many times that comes across the average person? And I feel for people, because if they had a little bit of the juice you have, maybe they would pursue that thing they really want to do, and they'd become the optimal person they're supposed to be. How do you coach against that?
All right, 3 things.
Okay.
First and foremost, no kid is ever told stop dreaming. You know, when you're in 4th grade and you dream of this thing, people are like, that's a great idea, phenomenal, that's what you should do. But somewhere between the ages of 15 and 25, reasonable disease kicks in.
Right.
And I call it a disease because you're convinced to give up on your dreams, give up on your goals. Don't go for that. Don't push for that. Be reasonable. Get a good job. Do as you're told. Get a mortgage. Do the whole thing, and get into that cycle. If I say I'm lucky because I won that award and got that training that success is possible, and I got the yearn to learn. I kept reading. And the more I read, the more I realized I can do this. The more I studied, the more I was around the right people. And today it's podcasts, books, audio books. You can get around the best of the best for free today. YouTube channels. Like someone jumps on my YouTube and there's literally hundreds of videos.
I got to plug that. Bradley Sugars on YouTube. It's tremendous stuff. There's great stuff. You can also go to bradsugars.com. But yes, free stuff all there.
So there's the first thing, okay? Yeah. Don't fall into reasonableness disease. Don't get that disease. Stay with the dream. Second thing, how is the enemy of your goals?
How?
So in 4th grade, you weren't asking, how do I do this, right?
Right.
Here's the problem with someone at age 21, 25, 35, 55. They say, I want to create this. And then they go, well, how do I do that? And because they don't know how, they fall into the trap of, well, I'm not going to go for that. Well, here's the formula for success. Dream, goal, learn, plan, act. Firstly, you have the dream. Second, you got to set it as a goal, like give it a definite, okay, well, I'll do this by this date sort of thing. Third, learn. Why do we set goals? So we know what to learn. Like you wouldn't set a goal of running a marathon, expect to run it tomorrow type thing.
Right.
You know you've got to practice, learn, grow, and grow into that goal. And if you understand that you got to grow into the goal, you understand you got to learn, you understand you got to practice, you understand you got to get mentors, join a group that's moving in that direction sort of thing. Surround yourself with people who are helping you, not holding you back. I remember as a young man having to spend less time with certain friends because their idea of the way the world should work was not the dreams I had.
The influence was important, surrounding yourself around particular people.
Jimmy Rohn said it, you know, the 5 people around you will determine where your life goes.
Right.
And there were certain friends of mine where they planned their weekend more than they planned their wealth.
Right.
To them, planning Friday night was more important than planning their life, their success, their next 10 years. And, you know, I have 5 kids, so I don't teach my kids to plan your life. I say, you know, try something new. Try something what's next. Don't sit down and go, what do you want to do with your life? Life's too big for that. Plan, what do you want to test for the next 5 years? What job do you want to try out? What area do you want to get going? Because your 20s should be about learning. Your 20s should be about learning, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? What do they pay for? If I'm in my 20s, and I always recommend to people in their 20s, get a job in small businesses rather than big corporations. You'll get promoted much faster. You'll learn a bunch more. You'll get exposed to a bunch more. But your 20s should be about learning. Your 30s then is about getting into your own business. Now, I always say to people, why get into your own business? I say, it's very simple. There's only one way in the world you will 100% be determining factor of your own success, and that is if you employ yourself. Now, the first few years of employing yourself is going to be dang tough because you don't really know what you're doing. Your first business is your hardest. The first million is your hardest million because you don't know what you're doing. You've never made $1 million before. How do you do it? Well, you got to learn how to do it while doing it.
So did you make your first $1 million before Action Coach?
Yeah.
And was it from, what business was this from? Pizza? Was it from DJing? What was it from?
No, definitely not those. Actually in the printing business. So I partnered with someone. We built the printing and photocopy shops. You know, like, well, today everyone has a photocopier in the house. But back in the day, you had to go to
like
FedEx, Kinko's and do your copies sort of thing. So, but the interesting thing about your first $1 million is that it's you're learning it, but you're also growing. Like if we relate it back to sports, right?
Okay.
So think of your wealth journey like football. Okay. So firstly, high school football. So your first million is high school football. You got to learn the basics, and you got to get good at it, and you got to build a support network around you type thing. Your first million is really about you being good at what you do.
You're building the foundation for
Correct.
future success. You're learning, once you crack that first million, you can then implement those strategies to get your next
Well,
million.
here's the thing. What gets you to your first million will actually stop you getting to 10.
Really?
Because what gets you to your first million is you being good, you being the guru, you being the center of it type thing.
Okay.
So that then becomes a bottleneck to the next phase of growth.
Gotcha.
So if I'm in business for myself and I want to be creating the million, I can work real hard and I can make $1 million. I can be the manager of the business and make my first million type thing.
I was watching, I'm telling you got to go to Bradley Sugar's YouTube, because I was watching a video on this earlier, because I was like, I feel the only way I can make money is by talking. Yeah. And I'm trying to think, how can I make money passively? Jason Feinberg in the hallway right there saying hi to Brad, his good buddy. How can I make money when I'm not talking? What can I do so I can make money while I'm sleeping? And what you're talking about is almost delegating, because in the beginning, when you're making that first million, you're the centerpiece to all the success.
And you have a few helpers around you, maybe an agency, maybe that other thing.
Right.
Now, to get to 10 million,
yeah,
you got to build a team of managers. You got to step up and become a leader at that point in time. Your first million, you don't need to be a leader at that point in time. You just need to manage and work hard and be good at what you do.
So with this printing company, when you make the first million, are you like, holy crap, I got $1 million
was work my tail off.
So it made you work harder.
See, here's the thing. I bought into the whole idea of hustle and grind. And I bought into that because I'm the owner, I got to be the hardest working person in the room. Like when I started Action Coach, I was still of a mindset that I had to be the hardest working person. I did 220 events a year, speaking events. I was on planes all the time. I was in hotels all the time. I burned the candle at both ends. And only when I was burned out almost did I realize that's not what a business should be. A business should be something that works without me. A business is something that can run whether I'm there or not. And so only then did I realize in my early 20s that I'm doing it the wrong way.
But that's what's so fascinating. This is where I want to get now into Action Coach, because this is what I find fascinating. To me, so many businesses that from the $1 to the $10 million thing, that's a fascinating space to discuss. Yeah. Because to me, let's just say I have something I got to get taken off my back because I have a mole and I got to go to a dermatologist, right? To check if it's cancer. Mm-hmm. Well, you do all this research. You want to go to the best dermatologist. You're looking on Yelp reviews. You're getting, asking your buddies, your pals, like, hey, who do you go to? And you want to go get that thing taken care of by the hands of that particular dermatologist who's got 5 out of 5 reviews.
Yep.
But then my question becomes, well, that dermatologist probably makes $1 million. But they're thinking at home, man, I've been doing this for so long, from medical school, I got to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. But the problem is the magic is the fact that they're not a McDonald's. The people are going to that dermatologist, not to the PA, because the PA, they could be great, but the reason they're showing up to that particular derm practice is because they want to see Dr. Blah, blah, blah. So how does Dr. Blah, blah, blah institute 10
I can
million?
give you an example from right here in Vegas.
Because that's what I'm so curious about.
My skin doctor, Rob Stremling. Now, I don't go and see Rob anymore. He's got his team that does the work. And his team delivers on the product. His team does a phenomenal job.
So you don't think...
See, think of it this way, right? There is an ego thing about being the guy, the gal, the main person in the company. You know what gets you to $1 million is that you're a rock star and that you're the center and that you're the person and you're the go-to, and it's easy to fall in love with being the center and the go-to person.
Interesting.
Now, to get to 10 million, you got to get out of that ego and you got to start to let go. You got to build a team of managers who do the work. The first goal I help business owners set when I'm sitting with them? Name me the date by which you're going to get off the tools. If you're a hairdresser, name me the last day you're going to cut hair. Name me the day when you're going to become the business person. Now, if you're a rock star, like the best of the best in the world. Like my buddy Peter Lick, he's the best photographer in the world when it comes to landscape. His galleries here are phenomenal, everything he does. And when I met with Pete way back when and started coaching him on stuff, I said, Pete, how many hours have you spent learning to be a photographer? He said, tens of thousands. He's very animated Australian. And I said, how many hours have you spent learning to be the CEO of Peter Lick Photography? He says, I've never had a class. I said, great. Let's employ a CEO to run your business and you go off and be the rock star. So there is that methodology of business. If you're LeBron James or Peter Lick or that level of amazing star, absolutely go do that. Even for my company, Action Coach, I don't run the company. I have someone that runs the company for me. Her name is Kate. Kate runs the business. All I have to do is the part I enjoy.
So was it hard for you to, because I think what happens is that special sauce, right? You build something, you start recognizing it's not just ego. It's like, it's proven. I'm a results-oriented person. So you're building, you're the special sauce that is making these things work. But you think to relinquish that control is that...
Oh, now we get into the fun part, right?
Because I think a lot of people, yes, ego's an obvious thing.
So
but
let's take that dermatologist idea.
Right. But
what if instead of doing the operations, that dermatologist created a cream?
Right.
What if they created a diet methodology? What if they created a methodology for every other dermatologist in the country to make more money and they licensed it to them, or franchised it to them?
Right.
What if they used their knowledge to create something entirely different? Let's use you as an example, right? So you sit here, you're doing these interviews, you're wondering, how do I get paid when I'm not talking type of thing? So where's the book?
Right.
So I'm 18 books deep. I make money whether I'm every night, overnight, people buy my books and boom, away I go. I get checks from my publisher whether I show up or not.
Right.
Okay, so this is what's called leverage. Okay, the term leverage means do more with less. Now, the way I teach it is really simple. Do the work once, get paid forever. Do the work once and get paid forever. So how can you do the work once and get paid at least long term? Right? You write the book. So for me, when I'm dead 75 years later, the copyright, my family still gets paid on all them books. So you start thinking about work in a different way. And you start thinking about 3 different types of work. Okay, and I got to get back to the third point on the other question. Employee work once, paid once. Managers work once, paid long term. Owners work once, paid forever. Okay, so we've got to start. I don't want to be too blunt, but I want to
be blunt enough. Please.
We got put through a system called the schooling system that taught you be good, do as you're told, get a job, pay your taxes, pay your mortgage, and do that.
We were talking about this earlier.
40. Okay. Right? 40 years, 40 hours to retire with 40% of what you were paid before. Not a good strategy.
Right.
You got to take care of your own money. You got to study money. You got to learn money.
Right.
If you go back to the formula, dream, goal, learn, plan, act, you got to learn money if you want to be a master of money. Otherwise, money is your master.
And I feel like what's so fascinating, and as we're, taking this conversation forward, from when you started as an entrepreneur to where we are today with, I'm going to tell you, Brad, I'm very concerned. I'm 34. I'm very concerned about, maybe not in my field exactly, but the impending issue of AI and how I just don't think that the system of the 40-40-40, we're more under threat, humanity, than ever, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of those.
You and me have opposite opinions on that.
Really? Because it's
the biggest opportunity you've seen in your life.
It's a good opportunity, but for a lot of people, here's why I'm saying it. I do think when there's stress, there's opportunity. And I think what I'm trying to drive home is those jobs are not going to be available. So the only way...
Excellent.
Which is good, because it's going to force people...
Excellent.
But my concern is there's still people that have had the blueprint before.
Can I coach you for a few minutes right now?
Let's do it. What do I need to do? Tell them. I'll listen to
Let's go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
How many years have we had 40-hour work week? It's literally 100 years this year.
Is that
1926 is when Henry Ford invented the 40-hour work week.
Okay.
Tell you where we're going. 20-hour work weeks. It's where we're going.
Can we start tomorrow?
I believe we're about 10 years off 20-hour work weeks. okay?
Wow.
Because lifestyle longevity is getting more important than it's ever been before. But here's the opportunity right now in the world we live in, okay? So about 50% of business is run by technology today. Okay, so you look at the computer system you're using, the platform that we're on right here, all the technology that runs the business, accounting software, internet, Zoom, you name it, about 50%. We're going to about 80% of business will be run by software. The car industry. Cars used to be made by hand. Today, more than 80% of the car is robot manufactured. About 20, it's back down to about 10% is humans. Elon just put some of the Optimuses on the line at Tesla, and they're about 80% as good as a human, he says at this point, but they'll learn real fast. We live in a time where if you want to, you can create wealth in a matter of months, not tens of years. When I first started out, it took tens of years to create wealth in the world. Today, you can do it in months.
Really?
The opportunity is beyond what you've ever seen before. You got to have a great idea. You got to learn. You definitely got to learn AI. You know, we still live in an age where there's businesses that don't update their Instagram properly. You know, so we've got that. 80% of businesses say they're on AI. About between the 1% and 3% are actually really using AI. You are not behind right now on AI. We are at the forefront of this whole thing. If you start learning AI now, you'll be ahead of 99% of the marketplace type thing. So you got to start learning it. If I lost everything today, I would be probably next 2 weeks 100% deep dive in AI. Now, I'm pretty good at it right now, but I would deep dive it. I would then spend the next 2 weeks building out an AI platform. I would do all that I could possibly do. I'd have AI build me a website. I'd have AI build me the marketing campaigns. I mean, you got to remember, AI's been around a long time. Google's algorithm is essentially AI. Since Google started, AI has been part of our world.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny. I mean,
it's exciting though, buddy. Don't look at it as
I gotcha. Here's my thing.
I want to finish with this one story.
Yes.
In my restaurants, right? And by the way, you got to come down. We just opened the Irish Spot. You know where the old Crown and Anchor used to be? We took that over. We redid it all. It's now the Irish Spot. So
oh, wow. We got to go check that out.
And, so in my restaurant, years ago, we used to have to pay 3 or 4 people to wash the dishes. Now I have a dishwashing machine. Is that a bad thing?
No. I mean, the problem is I don't think there's a lot of people that still want to be dishwashers.
Right. And that's the whole point of the world.
Right.
The world keeps shifting. 20 years ago, we didn't pay people to walk our dogs. Today we do. You know, what are the jobs that are going to be created? Because lifestyle, see, we've gone from the information age to the intelligence age. In the information age, it was about getting the information. In the intelligence age, it's about making sense of the information. Oh, so here we are. AI allows us to make sense of more information. Let me ask you a question. Could you, Mike Davis, go on ChatGPT today and say to it, hey, this is what I do. Here's my resume. Here's all my stuff. Here's all of these things. I want you to give me 10 ideas of how I could make money while I'm sleeping using my current skills.
I mean, I could do that. And I guess and I'll be frank with you, like the reason why I have a hesitation and my apprehension to just implement AI into my life is because I don't believe a lot of it. For instance, I could have, instead of doing this in preparation for my Brad show, I could have said, because there's so much stuff about you out there in the universe online, I could have just said, who is Brad Sugars? Give me 20 questions I can ask him. He's coming on to my podcast today. But I want to use an expletive right now because I would hate to effing do that. To me, that is so, it feels so foreign to my body chemistry. I get angry.
So what's going to be the differentiator in the next 20 years?
Well, because
human connection.
Right. So I think the fact that I put in the work and the fact that I didn't invest in AI actually makes this better. And I feel like you would have sat down with somebody and you would have said, you would get back in your car and you call your wife and you say, the dude put questions
He phoned it in, dude.
Exactly.
He phoned it in.
So to me, I think my fear yes, everything, there's two sides to every coin. There's a lot of excitement with the AI. There's a lot of potential on the horizon. But my fear is that most people are going to phone it in. And most people are going to take it as the easy step to execute the things, and we're going to lose that human touch. And that's what I'm fearful of for humanity. But that's how I feel.
So let's think of that as the opportunity factor for us.
Okay.
When 80% of it is run by bots and robots,
Yes.
the differentiator is the 20% that's human.
Right.
This is why emotional intelligence is now more important than
IQ,
ever.
right.
Communication skills, more important
Right.
than ever.
But people...
Networking, more important.
But you're
than
on
ever.
the forefront of this, and everything you're saying is right. I love a guy I love. You've written there's 2 books I want you to give me. I want to read Raise Your Hand Marketing and The Wealth Coach. These are
Got
2
it.
books we sit down and talk with you about next time. But there's a guy I love called Seth Godin.
Yep, love Seth.
Okay, Seth is very fascinating because he's a guy who started in the book publishing world and then kind of took a different step career-wise and more marketing and publishing his own books as a self-help guy. And constantly, he's always talking about, like you, smart guy, how there's so much opportunity more than ever to create that human connection and that opportunity as everybody's going to be following the herd in a different direction. Do you think after all these years from Action Coach starting in 93, when you're on the forefront and you're coaching people, do you think most people have it in them? Can everybody on planet Earth be entrepreneurial and start a business and be the person who wants to put themselves out there to be bold and create that human connection? Or is that only 20% of the population and 80% of the population really just wants to phone it in and take the easy route? How do you...
Anyone who's listening to you and me today can. Now,
Okay,
let me
that's your-
give you the
okay.
reason for that. If you don't want to, you cannot. The moment you decide that that's what you're going to do, you can learn how to do it. I'm living proof of that. I'm a kid from Brisbane. Like, I grew up in Sunnybank, where my high school, you didn't graduate, you survived. You got through it. And so, yeah, you graduated, but the graduation wasn't like private school or anything
Right.
like that.
This was a public school.
You got through the school. 1,800 kids, 400 in my grade.
Yeah, that was like me. That
You
was
know?
me. I had 700 in my grade.
Anyone can do it that really wants to, that wants to do the work, that wants to learn, that wants to grow. See, if you don't read, no one can help you. If you do read, no one can stop.
So are you concerned, like with your children, you have 5 kids, right? You seem like a tremendous husband and dad. I love how like you are so present, and I could see
Some days my kids would argue.
No, but I could see, because I have a lot of guests come on this show, and I love, like, I could see why you're in this space, because you have a focus that is so, even when you were talking about how you can create, wealth in months, the way you were just emphasizing the word months I was locked in. How do you prep your loved ones, your children? You're saying, you were telling me off air, like maybe you got to start another podcast beyond the $100 million entrepreneur podcast, because you're thinking of this other one that's a great idea. I won't put it out there yet, but a family member came to you and said, Dad, you should do something like this because everybody wants this person in their life. So to me, from a coaching standpoint, when you're talking loved ones, like, how are you priming them to have that desire? Because I think that's the next part of this. If we're taking it a step further, I loved your answer. You said, okay, everybody can be that person. They have to have the want. But now my next question is, how do we instill that want? Because that's the issue. It's the same thing with dating right now, right? People could go
I
out.
don't know, I haven't done that in a long time.
But let's just put that analogy out there, right? Why would so many young men put themselves out there for rejection and meeting certain people when there's all these people at home? We see people killing themselves over AI chatbots, right? What they're doing is they're taking an easy road.
Now you're getting into a total philosophical
But
debate.
so that's what. So from a philosophical standpoint, and going back to what the Jim Rohns and all these guys really tap into, is he's saying, hey, you have to attract success. It's not about going out and pursuing success. It's about attracting. How do you instill in humanity that drive, that want? Because a lot of people lose it very early now in life, and you need to almost foster that one. I think good parents do that.
You get to decide who you surround yourself with. There's a saying that's 2 lines that's the exact same thing. You can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. You can hang out with different people. Now, you don't have to go anywhere to hang out with different people. You can stop watching cat videos on YouTube and start watching Brad Sugar's videos on YouTube.
Listen up, Jason Feinberg. Enough of those cat videos.
Yeah, but that's why I brought that up. But so you ask about my kids and how we do it with them. I think there's 3 things you've got to understand. Our job as parents is to get the kids to have their own opinions. So starting life, kids have the opinions of their parents. Like what their parents think is what they think. Middle phase is what do my friends think. So what is the world and my friends, what do other people think of me? Final phase in life is when you get to what do I think of me? So, getting someone, and there's a lot of, let's be blunt, there's a lot of adults that haven't reached phase 3. They're still stuck in worried about what the world thinks of them, what other people think of them. And the fact is, you got to have a pretty big damn ego to think that other people are thinking of you. Most people are too worried about their own life to worry about what's going on in yours. So my first job is get my kids to have opinions. They say you shouldn't talk about certain things around the dinner table. Well, if you don't talk to your kids about money, who's going to teach them about money? If you don't teach them about religion and politics and sex and all of the things you're not supposed to talk to them about, who's going to? So first of all, opinions. Second of all, decision making. You got to teach your kids how to make good decisions. My favorite thing with my kids and I did it just this morning. One of the kids is talking about something. I said, well, hang on. Is that a good choice or a bad choice? I don't tell her what the good choice is. I ask her a question. So she has to think. By questioning my kids and then listening and questioning again, they're learning to think. They're learning to make decisions.
Yeah, gives them autonomy.
So then the third part of that is, what are they going to do? Well, I think what they should do is try a bunch of different things. Test out, see what you like. Go and do an intern over here. Go and do that. See what you enjoy. Find where you have a passion and where you're good at something. People say follow your passion. I say follow what you're good at. Follow where you're really good at something. If you're really good at it, you'll end up winning in that space. If you're not really good at it, you're going to struggle with it, type thing. So philosophically right now, because you ended on the question, how do we get people to have that drive? We don't. We can only be an inspiration for them. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can lead a human being to knowledge, you can't make them think. The people listening to you and me and watching you and me on this pod, you know what? They're going to succeed. You know why? Because they're learning, they're growing. They want to learn and grow. So if you've got that, absolutely. Now, can we get the younger generation? When I was 16, I wanted to be in business myself. And I was taught, be good, do as you're told, get a job, go to university, become an accountant. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with university, but the reality of today is you can get a better education by watching 10 different podcasts, if you know what I mean. Now, you still got to do the study in behind all of that. I don't believe that I started my foundation teaching young people for free about getting into business for themselves. Because when I was 16, I wished I'd started my own business for real, like really just committed to that rather than the whole college and working for someone else thing. I think I would have had 10 years head start on what I actually did, or 5 years head start. But ultimately, you've got to sit down with yourself. It's what you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself that matters most. If you believe in you, and sometimes that takes a coach first. Sometimes it takes a coach believing in you. And you didn't want to say it, but I'll say it. At some point, I've got to do the My Rich Uncle podcast because there's a lot of young people out there that don't have a successful uncle or aunt to give them advice. My mom, I love her to death, but she never had the manual. We're born with a mom, not a manual about life. And our mom does the best they can. Our dad does the best they can. But in most cases, they're not armed with it. That's what you mentioned my book, The Wealth Coach. I literally wrote that so kids could learn money. And I gave it to two of my buddies to read a pre-early copy. And they said, Brad, I need you to rewrite the book. I said, why is that? And they said, because this is great for kids, but I don't know most of this stuff. Can you write it so both me and the kids can learn it together? Because you've got to learn money at some point. If you learn money, it can take you 10 years to master money. And mastery of money means that you have a passive income, meaning income that comes in whether you get out of bed or not. Fastest way to do that is your own business. Yeah. That's the reality.
And I think just a lot of people, sometimes we have all the tools, we have all the manuals in front of us, but there's a fear associated sometimes with learning more, because what does that mean? It means that you have to address the situation. It means you have to address, hey, this is how much money is coming in. This is how much I'm spending. A lot of people, myself included with certain things, you almost want to be in a more toned down version of living sometimes, because you don't want to address every single obstacle and look things straight on in the mirror, and that's a hard thing to face. So once you overcome that hurdle, it becomes a lot more easy, but that's the necessary mechanism within yourself that you have to turn on. Because if you're not willing to just look at it and say, hey, this is what I'm making, I'm spending too much on DoorDash, I'm spending too much on this, and you start looking at those things, and you have to face an ugliness about yourself when that happens.
Dude, I was taught a line when I was young. He said, there's a lot of people that are looking good going nowhere. They'd rather look rich than be rich.
Right.
And social media has brought that to epidemic status.
Yeah.
But that confrontation with yourself, that looking in the mirror and being real with yourself, that's something that successful people have to do. There's only two ways to be more financially stable, and that is either spend within your means or increase your means.
Yeah.
So my philosophy on that when I was young was, I'm just going to keep increasing my means. I'm just going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
Keep doing more, keep learning, keep growing. Because if I get better,
yeah,
everything else gets easier. I just went to work on me. I read a book a week, literally on the way down here. Guess what's on in the car?
What?
A book. And it's on at 2 times speed. My kids get in the car and they're like, Dad, I can't understand this. I put it back to 1.5 speed. But you and me are sitting here today discussing things at a level with which most people aren't willing to discuss them. What does success take? What does it take to be successful?
Yeah.
And it takes growing. It takes learning. It takes you growing into the dreams and goals that you have in life.
Yeah.
But you look at dreams, buddy, most people, their dreams don't die through failure. Their dreams die through never trying.
Yeah, through inaction. And I think, like you said, as we're entering this intelligence age, this digital age with the forefront of AI facing us as a humanity, I think this is tremendous opportunity, like you said, and huge. I think this is
possibly the biggest wealth transfer we've seen in our entire lives.
And that's gonna be key. As we're wrapping up here, I knew this was gonna happen because we're gonna need to have you back, and we got to go into so much more. But last couple things. First of all, you got to make sure you go to Bradley Sugar's YouTube right now. This place, man, they got so many good videos. I was watching a bunch this morning. Go to Bradley Sugar's YouTube. Check that out. You can also go to bradsugars.com. All his books, 18 of them there. I'm going to ask him for a couple I want him to sign personally for me. But go on. There's 18 books there. He's got tons of things, plus Action Coach. Now, last couple things. You've learned so much in life. If somebody got to bump into you at Starbucks and say, man, I just bumped into Brad Sugars. I was able to, ask him a quick thing as I was putting sugar in my coffee, and I saw Brad Sugars. I
couldn't resist that joke,
I couldn't.
Right?
and somebody's there, and they're just like, man, like I had 5 seconds to ask him something, and he changed my perspective. Somebody could bump into you and just, you could touch somebody within like 15 seconds with something. What would you tell everybody that would be the most important take-home message?
We live in a world of wimpy goals. We live in an epidemic of wimpy goals. Set a massive goal. Massive. If you believe you can achieve it, it's not big enough. If people don't make fun of you for it, it's not big enough. I want you to set something so big, so massive, that you start to panic when you think about it. I want it to scare you, but also excite you. And let excitement win. Go after it.
I love it. My guy Tim Ferriss talks about the same thing. Brad Sugars, this guy, man, I've learned so much. What an intentional, illuminating conversation. I'm so happy finally, after all these years being in Vegas, I never got to bump into him at Starbucks. I don't know what Jason Feinberg was doing, but I'm so happy we finally got to do this. Make sure to go check out bradsugars.com. Anything else you want to leave our audience with?
The simplest thing I can say to everybody is there's someone out there that can, will, and should help you achieve your success. Go looking for them. Find a mentor, find a guide, find a coach, even if it's just through books and online right now. At least get started. Keep learning.
All right, there you go. The great Brad Sugars. Guys, we got so many great episodes of the Dry Heat Experience with Mike Davis, Matt Franco, our last guest, one of the greatest to do it on the Las Vegas Strip. So make sure you go check out all these prior episodes, but full interview right here, Brad Sugars. This is exciting stuff. Let's take on this AI age and set some lofty goals. That's the way to do it. Brad, thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time here in the Den for Dry Heat.